Well, after all, Corey runs Salami, and we cannot leave here without talking about salamis. And so tell us a little bit about salamis. A little bit different than other sausages, aren't they?
Yeah, we're so the process of stuffing the sausage into a casing is the same as a fresh sausage, but you're introducing curing agents in the form of nitrate. You're also introducing a starter culture.
I see.
Traditionally, that starter culture was a bacteria that would happen to be floating in the air, and when you hung the salamis over a period of time, they would populate the salamis and impart that tang.
A bit like sourdough, I guess.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So we do that artificially now. We buy starter cultures, and we know that the bacteria that are in them, and we know exactly what they do.
It's controlled.
And how long it takes.
Right.
The importance of starter cultures is not only with flavor, because salami would taste like salami without them, but safety as well. And what they do over the period of about 48 hours is they lower the pH down and they make a more acidic environment. So at about a pH of 5.2, bacteria won't survive. It's too acidic. So the starter culture allows that to happen. We stuff the salamis with the starter culture in there and ferment them, in this case, at about 24 degrees Celsius for 48 hours, and then they populate the meat.
24 degrees, so yeah, fairly warm to get the culture going, right?
Yeah. Some cultures you have to ferment at a much higher rate or higher temperature, as much as 90 degrees or over 100 degrees.
Right.
Those are more American-style salamis or northern-style, the really tangy ones. These slower cultures are typical of Italian salamis. The more it allows the meat flavor to show through, I think, a bit better.
Now, talking about flavor, you mentioned earlier the quality of the meat itself. That makes a big difference as well. I mean, a pork is not a pork or pork.
That's right. Pigs aren't all the same.
They're not the same.
And it really depends on what they're fed and who's feeding them and how they're killed. And when you're talking about dried products like this, the quality of the meat is so important. It's always important, but especially with these, because you're losing all the moisture. You're drying them out and concentrating the flavor that's in there. So if the flavor isn't great, it's just going to be that much worse.
I can imagine.
What you feed the animals is really important. We, of course, are really sensitive to using any GMOs in our feed. So no corn, no soy. We try to avoid anything like that. Ideal food for pigs is similar to what we eat.
They're very similar, aren't they?
And that makes really good tasting meat.
No, I know for sure that even regular sausages, like your sausages that you cook, and the quality of the meat itself makes a huge difference, and it's a massive difference. Okay, now I see these salamis have a lot of mold. That's what it is, right? That white stuff in there, it's a mold, right? So how does that start? How do you get that mold growing in there, or starting?
We actually buy a culture, a mold culture.
That's another culture then, different.
So it's a form of penicillium mold, similar to molds we have in cheeses. So we mix that into a solution and dip the salamis into that solution before fermenting. So a mold adds a few characteristics. It adds a characteristic flavor, a cheesiness, sort of a mushroominess to salami. It's a protective coating on the casing to allow it to dry a little bit more controlled. If it dries too fast, the casing will harden and then you'll get rot. So the mold, it protects the casing. It also fights off bad molds. So molds compete. So once you have a good strain of mold on there, the bad molds...
They monopolize the salami and sort of protect against the others.
So you don't get any green or black molds on there.
As you say, very much like cheese, like brie or camembert or something. Interesting. All right. Now you have a couple of samples in there of this.
This is a mold culture we use. It comes in powdered form. We have to keep it in the freezer. Keeps for about 6 months in the freezer, and we use it in a ratio of about 25 grams to 10 liters of water, distilled water.
Again, manufacturers' instructions, right? And those are the different types, I guess?
Yeah, this is a starter culture called TSPX, manufactured by Bactofirm. A very traditional, slow-acting culture, creates a Southern European product, Italian-tasting product. We also use another starter culture, FLC, made by the same company. This culture acts in a couple different ways. If we use a hot fermentation, this will make a more Northern European tasting product. But we can do a slow fermentation, and So this kind of acts in two different purposes. It's more of a all-rounder, good beginner starter culture. This one also has something in it that kills Listeria, which is another added protective.
Very common bacteria in this type
exactly.
of food.
So this is we've just switched to this, and it's working really well. They both work well, but this one's idiot-proof right now. Yeah.
Good, great. Well, you know, we went from salami to cultures and so on, but I can assure you that all these cultures are actually quite safe, and they are designed for food. It is one of those natural bacteria that we found around food. Very interesting lesson again. Thank you very much, Corey.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Another great lesson on salamis.